do together. And then there's a fourth or sixth, I guess, person now, Lori, who had came on 2-3 years ago as an employee for my parents, and now we're starting to work her in towards on that ownership model. There's other people in the vegetable side of things that were also coming into that, I guess, ownership, decision-making level. And so we're starting to have conversations about how to bring them in and have them feel like that they're not just employees. And that's always been the foundation of hire people and how we do our quote-unquote HR, is that it's not you're an employee and you have to do everything you say. It's you're a part of the farm, your decision and thoughts matter, and we want you to come to us and talk, and we'll all make decisions together. So that's kind of how we did that. Did I answer your question? I think I did.
No, you did. So, starting from that LLC sort of partnership, and then within any sort of bylaws or incorporated documents, it's really easy to set up and get a notary to notarize, what decision-making framework you want to use. It's a really straightforward and easy place to start. As I've looked into it myself, that seems to be the easiest way to kind of get the ball rolling. And then if you need to change your structure later on, you can do that, but start with a simple one that's really easy to change or manage, or, then you can kind of develop your chops. Or
farmers here in Northeast Wisconsin that we're all small and primarily have been doing direct consumer sales. The idea at the outset of it had been formed by my parents and a few other local farmers probably 3 or 4 years before we had moved back to the farm. So it had already existed. It kind of was trying to coincide with, this is all the history of the Green Bay local food system, which for those of you interested, it's like, if you know Madison's food system, where like Madison is this shining gem in the Midwest of local foods, farmers everywhere. There's like 50 farmers markets every day. Green Bay is like 20 or 30 years behind. So back in 2016, 17, I want to say, there was an organization, New Foods, Northeast Wisconsin Foods, that was trying to establish a food cooperative, like the grocery store cooperative in town, and they were trying to come up with a way of equitably buying produce, meat, eggs from local farms. And the farmers came together and said, maybe instead of all of us competing to have the lowest price, to be able to sell as much as we can, like race to the bottom to get into that co-op, let's form a co-op of our own, set the prices ourselves, and then the co-op sells to the co-op, right? So that was the genesis of the idea of the Slow Farmers Co-op. There's a lot of hiccups that happened with the grocery store co-op that